India sends out 3 big signals to China. Chief of Defence Staff General Bipin Rawat insists India will not accept a unilateral change of the line of actual control.
Our posturing is unambiguous. We will not accept any shifting of the line of actual control.
Show of strength and unity by India, United States, Japan and Australia at the Malabar Exercise. And the Tri-Services Special Forces Exercise at the Andaman Islands. Is China reading the writing on the wall? That's our top focus on India First. Is China reading this writing on the wall, the strong messages that India is attempting to send out? And does China actually look at it this way? The way Chief of Defence Staff General Bipin Rawat said that China is facing the consequences of its actions at the line of actual control. And what does this actually translate into on ground? The 8th round of Corps Commander talks happened for over 9 hours earlier today. Will it lead to disengagement, or are the forces that deployed for the long haul? Not only that, there still is a window for the Chinese to strike like they did in 1962. Is that a real threat? We'll talk about that in greater detail. I'm Gaurav Sawant. As always, let's get started with the headline. Our top focus story on the broadcast: the 8th round of talks between India and China were held today at Chushul in Ladakh. Now, while these talks were on, Chief of Defence Staff General Bipin Rawat came out with a stern warning. He said India will not accept unilateral change of the situation at the line of actual control. He also said that China is facing consequences of its misadventure at the line of actual control. But does China also see it this way? Will these talks lead to disengagement, or is there more trouble ahead? Abhishek Bhalla with our top story tonight.
More than 50,000 Indian Army troops remain deployed in a high state of combat readiness in various mountainous locations in eastern Ladakh in sub-zero conditions. Multiple rounds of talks have taken place, with a solution not in the horizon. India's top defense forces officer admitted that the situation at the LAC was anything but comfortable.
The situation along the line of actual control in eastern Ladakh remains tense, and the PLA is facing unanticipated consequences of its misadventure in Ladakh because of the Indian Defence Forces' firm and strong response.
India remains steadfast in its demand that China, being the aggressor, should go back to pre-May 2020 position. Preemptive actions carried out by the Indian soldiers to occupy strategic heights near the southern bank of Pangong Tso has limited China's options. General Rawat made it amply clear that Beijing's salami slicing tactics won't work anymore.
Our posturing is unambiguous. We will not accept any shifting of the line of actual control. In the overall security calculus, border confrontations, transgressions and unprovoked tactical military actions spiraling into a larger conflict cannot therefore be discontinued or discounted.
But the LAC is not the only area of threat. Pakistan's continued efforts to foment trouble at the LOC remains a constant irritant. The Chief of Defence Staff said Pakistan would be foolish to forget India's action at Balakot.
The surgical strikes post-Uri terror attack and the Balakot airstrikes have delivered a strong message that it no longer enjoys the impunity of pushing terrorists across the line of control under the nuclear bogey.
With two nations snapping at its heels, India has been bolstering its strategic ties. The ongoing mega Malabar exercise in the Indian Ocean is seen as a prelude to future military cooperation among the member nations of the Quad or Quadrilateral Coalition. With Manjeet Negi, Bureau Report, India Today.
And we will talk about this in greater detail. We will talk about the Malabar exercises and also the Special Forces Tri-Services exercises that are happening at the Teresa Islands in Andaman. But before that, I quickly want to cut across to India Today's editor defense Abhishek Bhalla, who joins us on the broadcast. We also have Lieutenant General Rakesh Sharma, former Fire and Fury co-commander, joining us on the show, and Ambassador Vishnu Prakash for a diplomatic perspective. But Abhishek, to you first. 9 hours, the two co-commanders met for the 8th time. Is there some forward movement on disengagement, or was it more of the same?
Well, Gaurav, this was perhaps one of the shortest dialogues at the co-commander level that we've had over the last 4 or 5 months, because as you know that most of these meetings have gone on for more than 12 hours most of the times. But what was important in today's dialogue was that one, there has not been a skirmish over the last 2 months. And the other is that the winter has set in at some of the places. The temperature has already gone down to minus 20 degrees. So that's a big concern for both the sides. Having said that, India has made it very clear that, the proposal from the Chinese side that was made of a piecemeal de-escalation, that is not acceptable. India has been stressing that if at all there has to be a disengagement or a de-escalation, it needs to take place all across the line of actual control in eastern Ladakh and not just in 1 or 2 places. And also the proposal from China that, there should be de-induction of artillery and tanks from some places. That again is not acceptable because it puts China in an advantageous position. So India has made it very clear, de-escalation is welcome, but it means a complete pullback from the areas that Chinese came into and restoration of status quo ante as of April end.
Does that actually mean loss of face for China? Because it was China's misadventure. Has China been able to achieve anything? Has China been able to achieve something? We'll talk about that in greater detail. But before I go to my guest, I quickly want to take you to the Bay of Bengal. Take a look at these images of firing. The Indian Navy, the Australian Navy, the Japanese Navy and the US Navy carrying out joint exercises together in the Bay of Bengal. This is phase 1 of the Malabar exercises. Interoperability is the name of the game. So you had INS Shakti, Indian Navy tanker that refueled ships of Japan and the United States. You also have live firing demonstrations. It gets bigger in the second phase where you start hunting for enemy submarines and ships. Now take a look at the firing and the interoperability in the Malabar series. That's again a very strong signal that's going out to China. Take a look. And in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, again, you had a Tri-Services Special Forces exercise that was carried out. This also showed amphibious landing. So you had the Special Forces of the Indian Army, the Marine Commandos of the Indian Navy, and the Garud Commandos of the Indian Air Force. All three carrying out a joint exercise. There you also see amphibious exercises taking place. That's an infantry combat vehicle, and this is an offensive exercise where you show your forces going into hostile territory. There you see these exercises. This is off the Teresa Island in Andaman and Nicobar. Let me quickly bring in Lieutenant General Rakesh Sharma and Ambassador Vishnu Prakash to help us make sense of what's actually happening at the line of actual control in the Arabian Sea, in the Indian Ocean and in the Bay of Bengal. General Rakesh Sharma, are these statements like the one made by General Bipin Rawat and actions that we see in the Bay of Bengal and Andaman Islands more symbolic, or is this substantive? What signal goes out to China?
Okay, thank you, Gaurav. See, we've been following what has been happening in Ladakh and in the Bay of Bengal over some time now. And I think we need not aggregate all this together into one, though the larger message can be conveyed. The fact of the matter is that on the territorial side of the line of actual control, The entire area is being discussed inch by inch between Chinese and the Indians across there at Moldo and at Trishul. So that's a separate thing happening in one sport. But it is also right to say that the squad exercises that are taking place first time between all four navies in the Bay of Bengal and subsequently being carried across to the Arabian Sea have a tremendous larger message to be conveyed across to China and to the world at large of four navies getting across and getting the interoperability together. The exercise being carried out on the Nicobar Islands or Nicobar group separately, you know, they do regular exercises every year, and large number of exercises have taken place over a long time. Maybe it's the first time that all three forces, all three services, SF forces have combined together to carry out a joint exercise. So there is some kind of jointness being brought about in the exercise being carried out on the Nicobar Islands, and which is more significant in this manner. But the total quantum of force utilized and the scope of the exercise seems to be still limited.
Okay. Fair enough. Ambassador Vishnu Prakash, you heard the Chief of Defence Staff at the National Defence College, the statements that General Bipin Rawat made. China is facing the consequences of its misadventure. Would China also look at its actions so many months down the line as a misadventure? Or is China prepared for the long haul? It's deployed, and now it's a battle of attrition. Who blinks first?
Well, I do believe that China has been taken by surprise. They thought it will be an easy thing, come in, bang, bang, and go back with a piece of the cake. They have been surprised at how the Indian forces have reacted. Now they are in a bit of a jam because they cannot withdraw without saving face. They want a face saver from us, but there is no reason for us to give them a face saver. And therein lies the catch, that they have no choice but to wait there and bide their time, try to engage in some things which they can go and declare as a victory back home. So that is how I look at it.
Okay. Now, General Rakesh Sharma, you've been deployed here at the line of control. How do you look at China looking for a face saver? When China says, let's have piecemeal withdrawal, let's pull back a little, pull back your artillery, pull back some of your tanks, pull back some of your fighter squadrons from the forward bases. Does that make sense? Or is there merit in India saying, go back with both your divisions to your peacetime location, restore April 2020? And why should China do that? Because that will be seen as China's defeat.
Okay, again, we need to desegregate the issue of de-escalation and disengagement. Disengagement is not only in the area of Pegongso or in the area of Depsang or in the area of Spangur Heights. There are other areas also which have not come to public domain, which are also occupied by us, which are we have a threatening posture. So the discussion has to be holistic in nature, and it cannot be isolated into areas that we are occupying as against what the Chinese had done in the May and June. So the fact of the matter is that it is a very serious issue, and it's not a simple proposition to disengage. Now the question of de-escalation. Now the Chinese tanks and Chinese infantry is fairly close to us, especially in the areas of, say, in the areas of Spangur Lake and the areas of the heights across there. And we are, of course, we are also bound there. And there is always a suspicion, a disbelief in our mind as to is it logical to vacate the areas or pull back our troops. So till the time there are some good verifiable mechanisms to assure us that these areas, if they are disengaged, will not lead to some other trouble later on, it will be very difficult to take a decision of this kind.
Fair enough. In 1962, Ambassador Vishnu Prakash, when the world was busy with the Cuban Missile Crisis, China attacked India. Is there a similar situation now when the world attention is focused on US election results? China, does it still have a small window of opportunity to strike, as some argue, to teach India a lesson?
Well, Gaurav, that is what they had set out to do, to embarrass India, to send a message to not just India, but the neighbors and the world at large. But that has not happened. Now, I don't think that there is a window as such that they will be looking at. Obviously, we are not letting our guards down. We are also aware of their intentions, and they will try to engage in some misadventure if they find a suitable opening. And obviously, they are trying to see where there is an opportunity. We are quite determined to foil any of their plans. I do not see a direct link with the anointment of the new occupant of the White House. It will all hinge on how Chinese read the situation, on about our preparedness, our level of responses, which are robust.
Okay. The Chief of Defence Staff General Sharma said that the situation at the LAC is extremely tense. Is that an indicator that between now and till the time the passes close, the Chinese could try perhaps another misadventure, or once the passes close, can they try something then, or wait perhaps for summers next year?
Okay, if you read, if you hear the statement of the CDS in a holistic manner, he also said that he contemplates that there will not be a full-scale war, and his talk commenced with that premise that there will not be a full-scale war. However, the situation is tense enough that it could escalate in case it's not kept under watch. So actually, he has very clearly said that though we are prepared for the worst scenario, but the fact is that he doesn't contemplate a full-scale war to take place. And if you study the quantum of force that the Chinese have brought into this area, a full-scale war is most unlikely. As it is not built up across in the central sector or built up across in the eastern sector. He is focused into narrow areas of the line of actual control in Ladakh region, which actually implies that, if there were areas vacated, he would occupy it. But he is not come in a manner to fight a war and actually evict us. And with the kind of, as the ambassador rightly said, the robust defenses occupied by us in the entire front, now it is very well nigh impossible for him to come and do any misadventure of this kind. Though an escalation and a firefight can take place in which there will be casualties incurred on both sides.
Fair enough. That's a very interesting point that you make. And for our viewers, this will be very beneficial to know. The quantum of troops that the Chinese have are not there for an offensive operation. So 2 divisions plus that he has in Ladakh perhaps was intimidation tactics. But let's now shift focus to the world scenario, Ambassador Vishnu Prakash. And you seem to indicate that whoever comes to White House may not impact our situation. Is that actually a fact, sir, in your appreciation? Should Joe Biden come as President of the United States of America, will his actions be as robust as Donald Trump, or irrespective of who comes, India-US relations will remain on an even keel, especially when it comes to China?
I would believe so, not just the case of China, but also at the bilateral level. And there are very good reasons for that, Gaurav. And the basic reason is that it is not just China, US reaching out to India, but US protecting its own turf, for the simple reason that China has challenged the supremacy of the US, militarily, economically, technologically. And that is the reason, and they are not playing by the book. For them, they will do anything to gain an advantage, espionage, counterintelligence, whatever. And we all know that the 92 million members of the CP, of the Communist Party, regardless of the citizenship they hold, the position that they hold, are the eyes and ears of the Chinese government or Chinese party. So the US is going to protect its own turf and, of course, work with friendly countries like the Quad countries and other democracies to make sure that there is a rule of law, that there is a free and open Indo-Pacific.
Fair enough. Now, General Sharma, in this scenario, and let me try and we'll re-establish that line with General Sharma in just a moment. Quad countries, Ambassador Vishnu Prakash, you mentioned. Now, in this scenario, do you see our troops deployed through the winters, through next year? And because we cannot trust China and China feels it cannot trust us, we refuse piecemeal withdrawal. They insist that they want a face saver, which we refuse to give. So the LAC is now like the LOC, permanent deployment from both sides, and our relationship, India-China relationship, perhaps destroyed for a long time to come.
That is a very heavy word. I mean, we have to live with China in the sense that we have a 3,500 kilometer long border with China. We have no choice. So I hope that they are not permanently destroyed. It's always useful to try and find a modus vivendi, but the relationship is in a deep freeze. There is no doubt about it. We cannot trust China. It cannot be business as usual. And yes, it seems that LAC is acquiring the characteristics of LOC, which is not a very happy situation. Not for us, not for China. But if China behaves the way it does, engages in aggression, in misadventures, we have no choice.
Okay, what would be a face saver for China, and is it in our interest to give them a face saver, or troops remain deployed through the winters and next year? General Sharma, in your appreciation, and should India then escalate, perhaps engage with Taiwan or block China on 5G officially? Does that send out a signal to China that what it's doing at the LAC is completely unacceptable to India?
Okay, we already have established a betterment of relationship with Taiwan. There are meetings going on. There is overtures being made. So, that is being happening in a simultaneous manner with Taiwan and with any other countries on the periphery of China. So that messages are going separately. But to say that we will provide Chinese a face saver, the fact is that yes, we want a rapprochement. Yes, we want our troops not to be deployed in the same manner as on the LOC, also at the LAC. But the fact of the matter is that the issue was aggravated by the Chinese. They came into our territory. Okay. They occupied these areas here. Why should we work overtime to provide a face saver to the Chinese? It is their problem how to deal with the Communist Party and with the Politburo. It is their hassle. We didn't invite them to come and do what they did. Now it is their problem to go back. It is if it is nicely done and it's nicely organized, and we go back to betterment of relationships and the trade starts off, all the more better. But if it doesn't happen, then so be it. They look for a problem to sort out the problem, not us.
Fair enough. The ball is in their court. I will let that be the last word on the show. Ambassador Vishnu Prakash and General Sharma, as always, a pleasure to have you on the show to help us make sense of what's happening on ground at the line of actual control and the bigger picture of India-China relations, which seem to be going into deep freeze. The ball is in China's court. They came in. Now it's for them to go back. Why should India provide a face saver? That is all I have time for on India First this evening. Have a wonderful weekend and do join us at 6 p.m. on Saturday. India Today Access My India exit poll for the most accurate projection of Bihar, the picture in Bihar. Join us on India Today.
Hi everyone, Preeti Chaudhary here. Hope you like this video. For latest news and analysis, like and subscribe to the India Today YouTube channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated. Thank you for watching.